What does PROTECT's title try to convey? It conveys two things. PROTECT's normative orientation can be seen when you ignore the second phrase, protect the right to international protection, because we simply think that the right to international protection is under threat in today's global context. This is the normative aim of the project, and this is what we are trying to normatively contribute to. And the second one is the analytical orientation. If we ignore the project acronym, the right to international protection, is it a pendulum between globalization and nativization? When we look at how different groups, political groups, speak about international protection, you will see some political visions behind them. And these political visions, at least there are four of them, these political visions vary between globalization, nativization, nationalization, and regionalization. All these were taken up by the previous speakers in easier words than what I'm using. Now, PROTECT's normative orientation can be explained further as follows. It is an international research project that is trying to identify the factors that can lead to a successful implementation of the Global Compact on Refugees. And it is motivated, as I said, by concerns about the future of the right to international protection. It is because of a turbulent global political context where at least four global ideological forces are fighting to impose their own visions of the world's political order. So the Global Compact and its implementation should be seen as part of a global struggle between different political groups. And Global Compact's implementation will be very much influenced by the powers of different political groups that are trying to interpret the Global Refugee Compact in different ways. So each group, each of these four main groups, propose different notions of international protection. I will come back to that. Mm-hmm. And some of these envision to downplay or abolish states' international obligation to protect refugees. This has been going on for a long time, but it has been strengthened within the last 5-6 years. So, which factors facilitate or hinder a human rights-based international refugee protection system? Many factors have been suggested by research and by politicians, and you are seeing them on the screen. They have been talking about the sizes of refugee inflows. If you get more refugees on your door, you will be more negative to receiving refugees. And who the refugees are? Today, if you get more Muslims on your door, you will get more negative responses to international protection. Who the persecutors are? Mm-hmm. If it is, for example, Iran that is persecuting, you will get more positive responses. If it's the USA that's persecuting somewhere, you will get negative responses to the refugees that are fleeing from USA-created conflicts. Political and economic crisis, of course, important. Actually, these new reactions, negative reactions coming against international refugee protection have been triggered by this. But it doesn't mean that political and economic crises are the real reasons behind them. They are triggers. National interests. If my national interests are going to be affected by many refugees and asylum seekers, then I would be negative to international protection in general. International politics, as I was telling you, there are many different groups that are advocating different visions of refugee protection, and they come into picture in the context of international politics between states. International law and global compacts on refugees and migration are these really factors for promoting human rights-based international refugee protection system. This is one of the things that we'll do, but this is only one of the factors. And politicization of the human right to international protection has been occurring more often and more intensively, especially in connection with the launching of the global compacts. People, political parties and political groups in different member states have been interpreting these global refugee compacts and global migration compact in different ways, trying to convince the populations that these are commitments, international commitments, obligatory for states, giving new obligations to receive more refugees, even though this is not the case in reality. The case in reality is that these are more voluntary international instruments, and there are states can commit to these in different degrees if they so wish, but can they? Is the question that Elspeth Guild and Jürgen Lassner's asking in a separate work package, because soft law can also have some impacts. Okay, UN global compacts and reactions to them should be seen in a broad global context of transnational political cleavages. These are political conflicts around New World Order. And this context covers all of the above factors and more. So, the global cleavage system that I'm talking about is made of a set of ideological and or interest conflicts about a set of multiple interrelated political issues. The ideological interest conflicts are structural, resilient, enduring, and mutually reinforcing. It is these qualities that allow us to call them political cleavages. Examples are transnational capital versus workers and natives and migrants. Very interrelated conflict dimensions that strengthen each other. And the global cleavage system constitutes the context that accommodates the factors that will affect the efforts to align the global compacts with human rights. So, which global groups we are talking about? These are the nativists. Nativists are people who say that only natives of a country, native populations of a country, have claim to be there and have a claim to own that country. So immigrants are not to be accepted or recognized. And we have nation statists. Nation statism is not the same as nationalism. Nation statism is a global world order vision that sees the nation states as the main elements of an international system, but these nation states can be of different types, like for example the United States, and non-ethnic nation states, France, an assimilating nation state, or Germany, an ethnic nation state, etc. Nation states are not concerned about how nation states are, but the fact that the world order should be based on the nation state itself. This is again a movement against the dominance of international organizations like the United Nations and the European Union and the European transnational organizations. And we have the globalists. UNHCR is a global organization. Globalists want institutions like UNHCR, World Trade Organization, etc., to be more prominent in shaping the world order. Then we have two types of globalizations: the market-driven globalization that is supported by transnational corporations and etc., and human rights-driven globalization that is driven by idealist organizations like UNHCR and ECRE and etc. This is just an example of these different types of, the presence of these different types of groups. This is research that I did together with Raphael Heiberger, the computational genius of this project. And this is the European case. The largest red circle there is the European Union, and all the other red fields there are civil society and other organizations that are communicating very intensively with the European Commission on Facebook and mostly agree with the European Commission. And to the right corner, down corner there, you have the green organizations, but not green as an environmental green. These are more nation-statists and populist nativists. This is part of a system. They are also communicating a lot with the European Commission, resisting. And on the other hand, we have the blue and orange colors. These are bottom-up Europeanists. These are about more human rights-based, gender rights-based, and pluralism-friendly organizations that want Europeanization, more European transnationalism, but not the kind of Europeanization that the European Union is promoting. And it is very interesting that nation-statists and populist nativists are together here in one group, because we don't find it in, for example, when we research the usual print and broadcast media. It is different, they are more separate there. Okay. I'm not going to deal with this too much because this is just a figure showing the mechanism behind how all these groups come through to the world. Okay, now we go back to the umbrella concept of PROTECT. As I said, the main objective is to assess the factors that advance the right to international protection and the role of the Global Refugee Compact in this process. And the overall research question that all the partners are going to work for answering is, how does the Global Refugee Compact affect the right to international protection along with other intervening factors? So here we see the Global Migration Compact as a significant factor that will interact with the processes that affect the right to international protection. That is, we think that Global Migration Compact has to be in the picture, in the causal analysis, when we look at the impact of the Global Refugee Compact. And it will be done by Elspeth and Jürgen and many others. And the context, as I showed you the picture, is a global setting where transnational political cleavage system at the global level is an obvious intervening factor. So, we are going to look at three things. International protection will be analyzed in its three dimensions. The rights, refugee rights, the governance of refugee protection, and the recognition of the right to international protection. The last one has a public sphere approach. The question that we pose concerning the rights dimension is, how can the rights mentioned in the compacts and the regional protection systems be aligned with the human rights protection systems more strongly? Here will Jürgen and Elspeth look at how it is possible to reconstruct the legal relationships between the UN compacts and the systems of human rights protection on the global and regional levels, and the Geneva Refugee Convention. Concerning the governance dimension, the question is, how can the governance of international protection be shaped to serve the goal of aligning the Global Compact on Migration and the Global Compact on Refugees with human rights protection systems? What we will do here is to identify the institutional architectures, collaboration patterns, and networks of governance actors that have best served this goal. There is a historical component, there is a statistical component, and there is an ethnographic component. From Castaker, we will be doing historical case studies of different kinds of institutional architectures, especially focusing on the location of the asylum decision systems within the state or their independence from them, how this has historically affected the quality of asylum decisions. And we will be doing the same concerning the period after 2018, 14 actually, comparing the periods before and after the Global Refugee Compact. Mm-hmm. So we are going to collect data about asylum procedures and how institutions work with each other, at which levels of decision making they come into picture, and how powerful they are in making final asylum decision making. And you have data about this. And the recognition of the right to international protection is one of the most important things. In several places in the Global Migration Compact, the authors explicitly mention the importance of the recognition of the Global Migration Compact. We got this from there. And they are clearly aware of the fact that both states, civil societies, citizens, and other important stakeholders recognize first this right and the legitimacy of the Global Compact on Migration and Refugees in order to be successful in its implementation. So we will do this in 3 ways. One of the ways is to look at the individual citizens' approaches and attitudes about the right to international protection. And we will do experiments in order to understand how we can make or we can convince the citizens, individual citizens, to accept the idea of their states involving in burden sharing, for example. This is one of the biggest problems, especially in the European Union. The majority of citizens in many countries do not want their governments to be a part of the burden sharing. And this is going to be done by us at the University of Berlin, by Pierre and Cornelius Kappelen, who couldn't come today. We will also look at the important civil society organizations' role in convincing the citizens to accept the right to international protection. This is going to be done by Simon Asherwood. And finally, we will do media studies of discourses about Global Refugee Compact and the right to international protection how these have changed over territories and over time, and what is the role of the global compacts in these changes, and what are the factors that determine citizens' views about these new legal instruments in the public sphere. This is going to be done by the Ljubljana University. Boris Manche, where are you? Yes, he's raising his hand together with Slavka Splikal and Anna Maria Sicakkan from the Lund University, and Michael Bossetta sitting next to her. So, the work packages that we have are on the screen here, and I'm not going to go through them because I think my time is almost over now. But I have given the general lines of what we are going to do and what is going to be done in these work packages. This is our project, and we are hoping to contribute to the well-being of our co-humans on this globe with this project, and we are hoping to be able to create knowledge that can be used by UNHCR, the states, even ECRA, even though they have a lot of information and knowledge already, in order to make the lives of refugees better in the future. Thank you very much for your attention.